Hello and welcome. This is Eric from AD Racing Central. When you think of anti-gravity racing games, the first franchise that comes to mind is probably either Wipeout or F-Zero. These game series are published by Sony and Nintendo respectively, but for some reason, no other major publisher has a franchise of their own in this genre, except for perhaps Saber Interactive that published 3-4 big things, Readout 2. This is not necessarily a bad thing, since it gives room for smaller independent studios to do their own thing and bring us unique and fun games. One of those studios is Supergonk, that you may not have heard of, but they have actually given us not one, but two of the best anti-gravity racing games to come out in recent years. In this video, I delve a little deeper into those two games that are called Trailblazers and Warp Drive. Let's get started. UK-based Supergonk have made at least one more game, but on their official website, the only games that are listed are Trailblazers and Warp Drive, so it's probably safe to say that futuristic racing is what this developer is all about. Trailblazers was released in May of 2018. The anti-gravity racing genre had up to that point some sort of unwritten rule stating that all AD racers need to include edgy design and electronic dance music or similar. Trailblazers did neither of those, as the visual presentation includes a strong color palette, goofy rather than cool and edgy design of the characters and vehicles, and energetic funk music rather than club techno. Story elements are not that common in the genre either, but in Trailblazers we can see non-voice dialogue sections in its campaign. But the thing that makes Trailblazers really stand out is the team mechanics, where you use ink to spray the track that increases yours and your teammates' speed. All these components make up a concept that I don't think we've seen neither before nor since. Let's break the game down. As you've already seen, the presentation is colorful to say the least, and the whole game takes place in a goofy fantasy world with a diverse cast of characters, and it also has a story-driven campaign. The campaign starts off with you playing as Jetstream, who learns the ropes of AD spray painting racing from Sid. The story campaign moves on in a linear fashion as a series of races taking place after each other. New characters are introduced continuously, and each event is locked to a specific character and their vehicle. The characters and their struggles and motivations are explained in non-voice text dialogue sections taking place before and after each race. The dialogue is funny overall and brief enough to not intrude on the racing all that much either. I personally always welcome these simple yet important touches to give some context to the racing events themselves. One of my favorite story arcs is that of the sentient frog Boo, who is reluctantly forced to take part in the championship by his tribe. He's also forced to partner up with the robot Volta, whose personality is Boo's opposite, which makes for an interesting dynamic. You can complete each event on different levels of success, and some of the challenges are quite tough, so there's definitely an incentive to replay already completed races. The characters are terrifically designed, with their goofy looks that are really out there design-wise, but at the same time they all blend together perfectly. Each character has their own vehicle that also works like an extension of the character themselves. Almost all vehicles are of a more classic car design, where the tires in the wheelhouses are replaced by repulsor-like contraptions that make the cars hover. All vehicles have their distinct stats in the form of speed, handling and boost, and also their own little description that further emphasizes their strengths and weaknesses. From a gameplay perspective, Trailblazer has the classic arcade racing game controller layout and gameplay feel. The controls are quite bare bones, as all you can do is steer, accelerate and brake to drift through the corners. To be honest, the general gameplay is fine overall, but can feel slightly floaty and inexact on occasion when compared to other similar games, but it is in the special mechanics where Trailblazers truly shine. With the press of a button, you can spray a trail of paint behind you. The paint is limited and recharges over time. When you or your teammates fly over your team's color of paint, you get a significant speed boost that also stacks the longer you are able to stay inside your team's paint color. You can also paint over the opposing team's color, fly through a gate that sprays a strip of paint ahead of you, and finally shoot a full load of paint in front of your car that also disrupts your opponents.
Come on. Yeah!
It's when you add up all these options that Trailblazers' team mechanics start to reveal themselves. The first laps of a race almost work like preparation for the last few laps. The goal should be to spray as much of the track as possible with your team's paint, of course, but there's also a matter of painting long continuous strips to really benefit from the huge speed boost you get after staying in your paint for a longer time. All tracks feature separate routes, so coordination is key to success, which admittedly is hard when playing with only AI. Shooting paint can be used offensively to slow down your opponents, but I find it more effective when you use it to fill the gap between two separate strips of paint. The tracks in Trailblazers are generally well designed, with lots of alternate routes to discover. To master them all, you need to learn how to take a hairpin properly and carefully maneuver your car between narrow sections, as hitting a wall slows you down significantly. And most events in the campaign are team races, where your entire team needs to score a good position. Other events are time trials and also gate races, where all paint mechanics of your car are turned off and you need to rely on the gates on the track to get the speed increasing paint on the track. The music in the game and its funky and upbeat tunes needs a mention as well. Unfortunately, the music is copyrighted, so I can't play it for you, but rest assured that it adds to the atmosphere of the game. Playing Trailblazers makes me a bit sad that this game didn't pop off. Sure, there are other titles with slightly more refined controls and physics, but I'm completely bummed out that we never got to see what highly skilled, coordinated top players could do with the team mechanics in this game. In the Wipeout community, we have seen lots of examples of player-organized tournaments in Wipeout Mega Collection with made-up team mechanics that aren't implemented in the actual game. In Trailblazers, all necessary mechanics are served up on the platter, and watching teams coordinate the use of paint on the track's multiple routes would have been a joy. At least Trailblazers is a solid experience for solo players as well, and the game is on sale commonly on multiple platforms, making it well worth picking up. In 2020, Supergonk released another anti-gravity racing game called Warp Drive. This time it was self-published, in contrast to Trailblazers being published by Rising Star Games. Also, unlike Trailblazers, Warp Drive lacks an online component, any driver characters, and the game doesn't have the same sense of being in an immersive world either. However, thinking that Warp Drive is less ambitious would be a mistake, as the game has ultra-responsive controls, a unique look, and just like Supergonk's game before it, Warp Drive has a unique gameplay mechanic never seen before in racing games. The stylish cel-shaded look is what hits you first the minute you boot up the game. The game is beaming with color and all tracks are placed in lush, colorful landscapes. The presentation definitely sells the cocky attitude that Warp Drive is going for, and the visuals are accompanied by a funky soundtrack that's reminiscent of classics like Jet Set Radio Future. The vehicles in this game look a lot like modern-day drones, and instead of having different ones to choose from, you instead customize your personal vehicle in multiple ways. But first, let's mention the gameplay mechanics. Your vehicle feels like it's glued to the track to a large extent, and the way the game plays feels more like an arcade car racing game than, say, Wipeout. The brake button doubles as an initiator for your drifts, and a successful drift that's long enough will give you a speed boost. On the track you pick up crystals that give you energy to do 4 different things. You can use it for a brief but powerful turbo, best used on straights or for overtaking opponents. There is, however, another strategic aspect of this mechanic, as using the boost will put you in a warp state that will make your vehicle pass through certain parts of the track and open up alternate routes. Moreover, a homing missile and a mine can disrupt enemies in front of you and behind you respectively, but this is the 4th option, the warp mechanic, that is the game's main gimmick. On certain spots on the track, warp points will appear, and if you have at least 1 energy bar in store, you can teleport to that point. These alternate routes are often either shortcuts or include extra speed pads, and even though the warp paths are far from a cheap way to first place, they give you just enough of an edge to keep things balanced. And it's these mechanics that are the main strategic element of Warp Drive. You always have to think about what to do with your hard-earned energy. A well-timed boost can be the difference between winning or losing, but so can a successful hit by a mine or a missile. The warp mechanic also challenges you to learn the many nuances of the tracks and know where it's important to save up some energy to get access to a shortcut. The track design in Warp Drive is quite excellent, and before reaching then, you will have ridden on the ground and walls of the track, and also the occasional stretch upside down. When playing these types of games, I usually become disoriented in regards to which way is down, but for some reason, this is never the case for me in Warp Drive. From the main menu, you can select 3 ways to play the game. Tournament mode consists of several events with 4 races each, where each race's score is accumulated in the end. You can do all events in 3 different speed classes. Challenge mode takes you through short challenges of various character, like completing a lap on a track littered with bombs within a set amount of time, for example. Survival is an endless mode where you do a randomly picked series of races with increased difficulty and also increased rewards. Everything you do in this game earns you credits that are used to upgrade your ship. The liveries are purely cosmetic, but more or less everything else changes both the look and stats of your ship. You also have a special slot that gives you some kind of perk, like holding on to more energy or letting you charge the drift boost more. This is probably the most important choice you have to make from a performance perspective. The way you obtain new items is also a bit special, as the customization parts you are offered to buy are selected randomly between races. This mechanic also goes to show what Warp Drive is all about. It's a pick-up-and-play game that can be enjoyed in either short bursts or longer sessions. There's no story to follow, just challenges to complete and randomized loot to unlock. It can occasionally feel like you have no clue what the setting of the game is all about, which removes a bit of purpose from the game, but in my opinion, the very solid gameplay and unique visual style more than makes up for this. Other than having a unique gimmick each, Trailblazers and Warp Drive are two games that are very different as far as anti-gravity racing games goes. One is team play focused and story driven, and the other an arcade-like stylish polished experience for mainly one player. In an era where indie developers are keeping our beloved anti-gravity racing genre alive, I think it's important to support them. You can do so by purchasing Trailblazers or Warp Drive. Both games are available on most platforms and are usually on sale as well. Also, check out this video for more inspiration about some unknown anti-gravity racing games. Thank you for watching. I am Eric from Major Racing Central, and I'll see you in the next video.